Good morning, guys. One second. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. And how do you do? Hope you guys are ready to get this morning started. I hope you enjoyed the show yesterday. And if you did, please make sure you share it with your friends and your family. And if they do not have Facebook, send them over to the YouTube channel. They can binge watch all the Fearless Morning shows over there. We have hot lemon today. Hot lime. So we have hot lime today. That's what we're drinking. Good morning. Welcome to the Fearless Morning Show. My name is Yamitra Jojo Waddell, the only Live Past Crazy specialist. So what better place to be than here with me? Let me share this show over to another page. And then we're going to get right into the quote and the thought of the day. That's what we're going to do. Good morning. If you missed last night, I did the 5 keys to the 5 steps to live past crazy. We had an amazing time. So thank you to everyone who joined. And if you missed it, you can purchase the replay. Send me a message and I will post the link. Or you can go to bit.ly/5pass and you can catch the replay of that. But good morning. So we had a great time doing that. It was a good show yesterday. We've had a good show all week. So let's get right into the quote and the thought of the day today. All right, so the quote of the day, I have 2. And y'all, I found the quote first before I had the thought. And it's crazy scary how they match up. Good morning, Kiva. So, quote of the day. The true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit. That's by Nelson Henderson. The true meaning of life is to plant trees under which you do not expect to sit. Nelson Henderson. The second quote is, to have wisdom, the first thing you must know and understand is yourself. And that is by Caesar Mitchell. I like that. I like them both together because y'all on this journey, you are building legacies for yourself, for everyone that comes after you. You are redefining legacies. You are doing all those things, and you may or may not see the fruit from what you're doing now, but it is your intent that you provide for those behind you. And to get there first, you must have the wisdom and know and understand yourself. That's why I say self-care is gangster. If you're not willing to do the work to get to where you are, hold on, let me check. Thank you, Miss Stevens, because my Wi-Fi was on. Appreciate it. Good morning, Miss Angela. How you doing? Is it Angelina? It's Angelina because there's an A on that. I majored in English. Let me read correctly. So I love these 2 quotes because on this journey, if you do not understand yourself, okay, and that's what it's all about, is getting to the root of who we are, why we are, and if we don't ever get to the root. So let me put it to you this way. Have you ever tried, those are the quotes today. The Fearless thought of the day is Roots. Y'all remember that movie, Roots, right? I read the book. I couldn't watch the movie. I read the book and it changed my life. I read it as a kid. If you've never read that book, please go read it. Yes, it's old, but it's life-changing. So if you've never chopped down a tree, try pulling up a root or something. Let me help you out. And this is why this is amazing, that I found this quote yesterday afternoon, and I found what I was reading, And oftentimes, if it's not my own thought, I share you guys where I'm reading it from. I came across this in a book, and they go hand in hand. The true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you don't expect to sit. Number one. Number two, to have wisdom. The first thing you must know and understand is yourself, and that's by Caesar Mitchell. And so we've got to understand the roots. So when in the country, when you chop down a tree, right, you cut off the limbs and you break it down into pieces, especially if you're doing it yourself, and you get right above the base, you know, the bottom of the tree. Now, if you want to dig up the roots, you usually get the little scooper thingy. I call it a bulldozer, but it's a little scooper thingy. And you dig up the roots. And you think that because what you saw here was all there was to the tree. But oh sister, when you start digging deep and see how far and wide those roots go, you're like, this tree is never going to end. I never knew all of this was a part of what you were seeing, this tall thing that branched out. What started out as a seed is now a tree that has been standing for 60, 80, 90 years. So we talked about 2 weeks ago, the 1st of May, that we are a flower and we are planting ourselves and we're planting our intention. You're about to be a tree, okay? But in you becoming and growing and developing your roots on this journey, this is where self-care is gangster. This is where you got to first know and understand yourself comes into play. Because in order for you to grow, you are going to have to understand your roots. You're going to have to understand why you think the way you do, your thought process, why you handle stress, why you handle pain, why you handle things the way you do. Why do you handle confrontation the way you do? And you've got to get down to the root of some things. Because what you don't realize is that you can see a tree or a flower or whatever, and half of it is dying. It's not well. And you think, oh, it just needs some water and attention. But nothing you do is making it any better. That's because what the real problem is that it's at the root of it. And we've got to look at our root causes. We have to look at our root reasons for why we think and do the things we do. If we are not willing to start that part of the journey, my friend, how strong will our tree be? How deep will we go, and how long will we be able to stand, and how long will we be able to provide shade for those around us and our loved ones? If you take your journey seriously, right? If you truly are honoring the divine that is in you, you are going to do that work so that, and this is coming to me as I'm talking. Look at Jesus, A to the man. It's time to repot yourself. You know, it's time to uproot and develop something new. When you do that, you have an opportunity. When you start to dig deep, you have the opportunity to observe everything in your life. When you start that journey, because let me share with you what's going to happen when you start on the journey, and you're going to start looking at how things operate. You're going to look at how you don't have generational curses. You have generational thought processes and habits. And you're going to start asking the questions. Remember the power of the question. Don't let anybody take that away from you. Ask the question. And you're going to start asking questions about, well, why is this here? Well, why is that there? And then you will start to dig deeper and examine all parts of your life and your relationships. Now, you may take one at a time, and that's cool. Remember, we're celebrating day one over here, not one day. And so you're taking the time to look and ask the questions, because that part of your root needs the attention. But you've got to pay attention to the whole tree of you, the whole fruit of you, because you may be an apple tree, but you got an orange over here, a raspberry. You got all kind of things going on because you stuck in that likability trap, right? Like we talked about the other day. And it is deeply seated and rooted into you. And that's, my sister, come on, why it's hard to sometimes move and change, because the habit of the things that you've been doing, not the curses, but the habit and the thought processes of things are so deep and integrated in you. When you go to move, it's hard to move that root. It's hard to detach from your normal. You have dug deep. You 3, 4, 5 generations in making macaroni the same way. And you're 3 or 4 or 5 generations in thinking you can't have more. You can't be more, that you're not a powerful woman or a powerful man, that you're not the leader of your family. Somebody had that thought process and they practiced it every day, and now they're passing it along to you. And here you are under their shade tree. You are under your mama and daddy and great grandma, grandpa's shade tree of what is not possible. Gal, don't question the people. Do what they ask. Gal, you can't do this. Gal, you under that shade tree. Now, ain't nothing wrong with my grandpa shade tree. But I've got to, it's in the country, y'all. This is so amazing. In the country, you never know the lessons that your grandpa teach you when you're a kid and you don't want to. Remember we talked about showing up that tree, the one that was leaning, and we put 2 stakes and we showed up the tree. Well, that tree was next to the biggest tree in the whole yard. And he says, sometimes you got to help that tree find its own way, because the bigger trees will crowd it out and it will never have an opportunity to grow, gal. We did that with the peach tree. We did that with the apples. We did that with the grapes and the strawberries in the pear tree. We did that, and I never got it to just now. He said, the bigger tree may provide the shade for everybody, but you also got to be careful, because it also may block the path of the tree that's trying to come up. So can I bring it back together? Because I'm getting all of this right now. So your parents are the bigger tree, right? And their roots are deep, and they have been providing the shade of you your whole life. You have been under their fruit, just like you've been under the fruit of your church, your religion for years. And now here you are planting yourself, sister. You're starting to grow, my friend. You are sprouting out, and you are now understanding that you too are going to be a tree who is going to provide shade for future generations and legacies. But now you're choosing to look at your roots. You're choosing to do the work so that you understand that my roots are set and that they're growing in the right direction, that I am providing the right fruit, or I'm giving the right shade, or I'm giving the right space for someone to grow after me. I'm not crowding their space. I'm not taking over and insisting that my way is the only way. You're simply providing shade for them so that they have a safe space to grow. And the true meaning of life is to plant a tree under whose shade you do not expect to sit. Y'all, A to the men. A to the men. Can we examine those roots today? Can we do that? To have the wisdom, first thing you must know and understand is yourself. And that, my sister and my brother, is examining your roots. The generational habits, the generational behaviors. You could call them generational curses. I think they're generational thought processes. That's what they are. My grandpa did the same thing every morning, so my mama do the same thing every morning. Her mama do the same thing every morning. She instilled it in me. I did the same thing every morning. I instilled it in my children, and I do the same thing every morning. You get up at 4:30, and you have a cup of coffee, but this is lime water. 7 generations in. Good morning, Tiffany. We don't have generational curses. We have generational thought processes and behaviors that we pass down, and that in us honoring them, we don't ever question it. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying you got to show yourself up. You got to find your own space. Now that you have planted yourself and you are the seed and your roots are finally taking hold, pay attention to, is this where you want to be? Is this what you want to develop? Is this what you are expecting out of your life? Is this the fruit that you want to bear? It's just the shade that you want to provide for those who are coming after you. So you got to be strategic about that thing. That's why self-care is gangster. You got to be strategic about how you're growing. You got to be strategic about how you are placing fruit and seeds around you. You got to be strategic about who is planting near you. That means you got to be strategic about your environment in which you choose to grow any aspect of you. You got to be strategic about that thing. You got to write it out, plan it out, and understanding, where am I growing? Is it truly fertile ground? And let's be clear, you are two things. You are the seed and you are the fertile ground. What are you planting every day, boo? And are you planting it inside of you in such a way that it is going to grow? Because if the inside of you is, I don't know, and I'm in turmoil and it's depression and it's sadness, the ground is not fertile for the seed that you're hoping and wishing to grow. So if you're both the seed and the fertile ground, don't you think you need to pay attention to how you are operating and taking care of that? Because my grandpa say, and I love my big daddy. I call him grandpa for y'all, but for me, he was my big daddy. He said, baby, you got to give the ground some rest. When we would go out there in the garden, and he was like, you got to, after this season, you got to give the garden some rest. You got to till the soil and let it breathe and let it rest. So that when it really is time to grow, it has good ground to grow in. And boo, that's why self-care is gangster. You got to take the time for yourself so that you understand that you are beginning to plant a garden, that you are the seed and you are the fertile ground. And you, my sister, have got to take the time to fertilize yourself, to look at what you're growing internally and how is that coming out of you. What are the branches that you are giving? What is the fruit that you're giving? What is the seed that you are hoping and wishing to plant? And in you taking care of yourself, that's where you're doing the strategic work of understanding, of planting your garden. This is what I want to see for future generations, because my big daddy gave me the legacy of the Twitty family. My daddy gave me the legacy of the Waddell family. I am now being strategic about how I'm going to continue to plant those trees so they can continue to give shade, because my big daddy was a shade. My daddy was a shade tree. And so I will be. And my children will be, but I've got to make sure first that my roots, come on, y'all, are solid. That I understand why I'm doing the things that I'm doing. So that I'm not up here saying I'm providing shade when I'm really not. I'm not giving no fertile ground to anybody, anywhere. So here's a nerd fact, y'all. Y'all know me. And I recently learned this. That trees talk to each other. I want y'all to Google this. Scientists have found out that trees talk to each other. So when you dig deep and the tree has grown and the roots, they don't stay where the roots don't stay where they are. I know why I want to cry. The roots don't stay where they are. They spread out and they grow, right? And as the roots spread out and they grow, they communicate to the next tree and say, hey, tree, it's good to grow right here. And if you branch over your roots over here, it's even better. You get more sunlight over here. And they found that all of the trees in the forest communicate to each other about where it is good to grow, because the tree is continuously producing seed. And it is telling the other trees around it if this is good ground. And then there's the river effect of the tree. If you look up into the trees, right, none of the leaves touch. None of the branches touch. If there are two trees together, none of the branches touch. That is them respecting each other so that light can continue to shine down inside to give light to the ones that are just starting to grow. Whole life right there. Whole life. So we got to be careful with our roots, boo. Because when you plant it, you are, come on, you're talking to future generations. You're talking to future Waddells. You're talking to future Twitties over there. And If and they're paying attention to, is this fertile ground. Now your mama, your dad, they may not have left you no fertile ground to grow in, but that's okay, boo, because today you are both the seed and the fertile ground, and you're paying attention to that root, and you're making sure what you're planting is going to be able to provide for the next generation. The true meaning of life is to plant a tree. It's to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit. That's by Nelson Henderson. And to have the wisdom, first thing you must know and understand is yourself. This is good to me this morning. I done got my whole life. So can we pay attention to our roots today? Just for today. And I don't want you to think about tomorrow. I don't want you to think about the next hour. I want you to understand just for this second, just for this minute. Can we be open to the more? Can we be open to the idea of the miraculous, that you are the seed in the tree and the root for future generations to come? And you got to be gentle with what you're doing. You got to be strategic of what you're planting, so that when your roots begin to talk to your future generations, they understand why you, as the matriarch of your family, fellas, you as the man of your household, why you set that root right there, and why it grew right there, and why that is important. Look at it. Look at Martin Luther King and his root, and look at how it is taught to generations. Look at your family. Look at your grandma, your grandpa, your mama. Look at how their root talking to generations if they have grandchildren. What is it saying? What are your roots communicating to those around you? What is it communicating to the other trees? Are other people wanting to grow around you, or are they dying? Is your land barren, or is it fruitful and multiplying? Y'all, I'm having myself a whole good time over here this morning. 8 to the men. So on this wonderful day, it's going to be an absolutely amazing day. Let's get to the root of the problem. Let's get to the reason why we really do the things that we do. Why are you intentionally doing this thing that harms you? When are we going to pay attention to the roots that we have? And sometimes that may require digging it up and replanting it somewhere else in a more fertile ground, because you're wondering why you're not growing. I have become obsessed with plants in the past 6 months. I started out with one. Now I promise you, I have maybe 13 plants in this house, and I'm going to buy some more. Those are plants that ain't including the ones that I planted last weekend. Because when you understand the purpose of, when you begin to understand the purpose of life, right? Yeah, my back is itching. When you begin to understand the purpose of life, and that life is all around you, you enjoy having life around you. When you start paying attention to your roots and what you are intentionally and strategically planting for your children, for those who are coming after you. And some of y'all, come on, I want you to understand, you are planting that seed for your mama. You are doing that for her. You are planting that seed for your mama, and she is going to have the benefits of your shade tree, even though she's older than you. That's how fast you fixing to grow when you understand the root problem of what you got to do. That's how fast your growth is going to be the minute you take the time, right, to look at your field and look at what you're growing, to be gangster about your self-care, right? And understand why you're doing the things you're doing, and make sure your ground is fertile, make sure it's giving rest, so that now as you start to plant the seeds and you develop those roots for real, the growth is going to be astronomical. Your mama is going to be able to sit under that shade. Your daddy, your aunt, and your uncle. Because see, it ain't just for future, it's also for those who are sitting right there with you. But they needed to see someone do it. They ain't never They ain't never gardened before. They ain't never took the time to look at their roots. So they don't know how to do that. They don't know how it's done. They may think you're doing a lot, but boo, they watching you. And they're going to come back and ask questions. I'm a living witness to that. They will come back and ask questions. And that's where you've got to be humble enough to say, let me show you. Now, I tried to tell you when I was doing it, but you didn't. Be humble and say, okay, let me show you how you do this. Because now they have watched you, the experienced gardener, produce the fruit to grow the seed. Because you're both the seed and the fertile ground. So on this wonderful, amazing day, can we take a look at our roots today? Just for a second. Just pick one aspect of it. And then what you will find is that the deeper you dig, the more questions you're going to have, and the more you're going to seek. And the answer is in you. It's at the root of it. The deeper you go, the more answers you're going to find, and the more of a strategic plan you're going to have, because now you like, well, I worked this part out and I understand why this didn't grow. Well, this part is dead. Let me cut that off. And you're looking at how far your roots have gone and what are you going to do about it? Do you need to replant yourself? Do you need, because my mama told me this, when you're repotting stuff, you got to squeeze the roots to loosen them up some so that they, you got to loosen them up sometimes so that they know that they have room to grow. She said because they've been in that container so long, they don't know that they can grow. And so when you taking them out of what they're used to being in, you got to wet it a little bit. She said she told me you roll the pot around and you squeeze it. And when you gently pull it out by the base, you will see, come on, y'all. Learning this today. You see all the roots are jumbled up in that. They were all jumbled up in that thing. So you got to still spray it down with a little water and gently massage it to loosen the roots so that they know they now have room to grow. Y'all. What? Come on, somebody. A to the man. Is that what you need to do? Do you need to repot yourself and pay attention to your roots? And she said, JoJo, some of them you're going to have to cut off because they dead. They ain't going to grow. Wherever you planted, it ain't going to grow. Is that what you need to do today? Is that what you need to take time doing this weekend? What's growing, what's not growing, cut that off? Girl, Tiffany, whole life, I just got it myself. I just got it. And it's only because I've been planting stuff like crazy here lately. And I've been observing the plants and how they grow. If you look at any plant in this house, any plant I have, any plant you got, which way is it leaning? Toward the sun. Everything grows towards the sun. Because the sun gives you everything that you need to be who you are. But if you ain't paying attention to your roots, and your roots can't seem to get a grip because they ain't in fertile ground, they can't acknowledge the sun. The sun ain't doing them no good because the root is not good. Yes, ma'am. Come on. So on this wonderful day, let's think about our roots. Do we need to unplant ourselves? Do we need to massage our roots, look at what's growing and what's not? Do we need to take, just for the day, think about one thing. Let's be mindful. Let's be strategic and mindful of what we're planting. The true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit. That's by Nelson Henderson. To have wisdom, the first thing you must know and understand is yourself. So in order for me to be a shade tree, I've got to know and understand myself. In order for me to understand my roots, I've got to have the wisdom, and the wisdom comes from me cultivating my land, me understanding I am the seed and the fertile soil, and giving my soul the rest. That's where Self-Care is Gangster comes in. And the rest is me taking the time to acknowledge my habits, my thought processes, that are no longer serving me, and what am I going to, is that a root I need to cut off? You need to prune yourself. Your mama, your grandma ever tell you need to go prune that tree? That means you need to cut it back in order for it to grow. You need to take off those dead pieces, because the top part of the leaf is dead, and the bottom part is trying to grow, but it can't grow no further than a dead piece. I hated gardening. My mom used to tell me stuff all the time. It's like, Mom, I don't want to know that now. Here I am, darn, trying to garden at 44, trying to figure it out. So on this wonderful, absolutely wonderful day, I want you to take the time to do that. I hope this has helped y'all. Y'all done got my whole life this here morning. You understand? And I got my whole life. And we've got to be strategic about that thing. And you've got to knock some things down to get to your root. Because as we were talking about earlier, when you cut that tree down, you don't just start digging at the roots. You start cutting it off limb by limb. And my grandpa cut it off about halfway. And then, what's that little thing? I call it a bulldozer, the little scooper thing that scoops the roots out. Then you start doing the work. Then you get down to it. Be strategic about how you working that out, sister. The good thing is today is day 1. You're on an amazing journey. I'm here with you. We're growing with this together, y'all. We're getting it as I learn and as I share. I'm also going to water somebody else. That's the whole point of being my sister's keeper. Just like you learning and you grow, you got to water somebody else. Cultivate your own field. Be the gardener so that your mama can enjoy your shade. She can enjoy the fruits of what you're planting. But you are both the seed and the fertile ground. That means you're going to have to, to honor your mama, you need to honor yourself. You need to honor yourself with the work that is required for you to continue to honor your mama or your daddy or whomever you choose to insert there. Honor yourself first so that you can do the things that they need you to do, so that you can provide for them. I tell my family all the time, I can't help you if you want me to hang out and talk to you all the time. I got work to do because I'm strategic and I'm intentional about this thing, so that when the fruit starts to come, everybody is allowed to eat. But I can't do that if I don't pay attention to my roots first. I'm all over in your garden and I ain't planting nothing in mine. So on this wonderful day, I want you to have an amazing, amazing day. I want you to be peaceful, period, because there's nothing after that. I want you to take time to understand your roots today, what it is for you today. I'll leave you with the 2 quotes. To have wisdom, the first thing you must know and understand is yourself. That's by Cesar Mitchell. The true meaning of life is to plant trees under whose shade you do not expect to sit. And that's by Nelson Henderson. You are both the seed and the fertile ground, my brother and my sister. Okay? You are the seed. You are the fertile ground. Pay attention to your roots and what it is that you're growing. And remember, you are talking to the trees around you. You're talking to your children. You're talking to your friends and your family. But pay attention to the roots. Examine them today and see what are they doing for you. And then be strategic on your planting process after that. Cut off what doesn't need to be. Replant yourself if you need to be. Because sometimes, and I just saw this happen. I took one of my smaller plants and I put it in a planter that I thought was too big. I bought it by mistake and I thought it was too big. But when I put that little bitty plant in that bigger planter, it filled it out within a month's time. Sometimes, my sister, you just need a bigger field. You need a bigger space. You need to loosen up your roots so that you can grow more. You need a bigger container. You have outgrown where you are. And now it's time to replant yourself. And in the replanting, you have the opportunity to examine your roots. Thank you, Keeper. So on this wonderful day, I want you to have an amazing day. Please make sure you share the show because sharing is caring. If your friends and family do not have Facebook, send them over to the YouTube channel. This will be a podcast today. So if we're everywhere where podcasts are found. We're on Stitcher, we're on Apple. If you have Android, we are there. It is the Live Past Crazy Show, so that you can send them the link and they can listen to it there. Y'all, I cannot do this by myself. I am my sister's keeper. But in order to help my sister, if I've given you anything that has helped you, it is now your requirement to go give it to another sister who will help her family, who will change her community, and we will change the world. It's that simple. One sister at a time. One brother at a time. Because this is for the brothers too. So I hope you guys have an amazing day. Please take some time to look at your roots and what they're doing and what they're not doing. Prune yourself if you need to be, but continue your growth process. You are both the seed and the fertile ground. Do the work. Welcome to your journey. It's going to be an amazing journey. It's going to be fun. It's going to be growth. And just sometimes you just needed to be replanted and to realize that it was okay to grow and that you are absolutely qualified to be exceptional. And it's okay to be exceptional wherever you are. So I hope you have an amazing weekend. And I will see you guys here bright and early on Monday morning. Have a good one.